Okay, so let's start things off with Rico's ability. That should be a fair place to begin. Your partner for this training exercise will be Taleon. Since you've already given her free rein to eat your demonic energy, and you've got plenty to spare, it shouldn't be a problem if she gobbles some more up. But Rico not hungry anymore. Is that problem? Rico asked, putting one single finger to her head and scratching lightly. No, I don't think it'll be a problem, Rico. You should be able to stop eating anytime you want, so if you feel any sort of discomfort or pain, you can go ahead and stop. Also, just in case, you're going to need to stop if I give you the command. Remember, if I tell you to stop eating, stop. Okay, Rico can do. Okay, you two, step out a little further away from me. I don't want to be caught in the crossfire here, he said, shooing myself and Rico away, Taleon thought, as he began to walk that direction. I mean, Rico doesn't eat that much energy. I don't really see how this is going to be training. After getting about 50 or 60 feet away, Rico and Taleon stopped, looking at each other from about 10 spaces difference. Okay, that should be good. Now, Rico, Salas said, as Rico looked over to acknowledge him. Okay, so what Rico do? Okay, Rico, what you're going to want to do is try to focus your demonic energy. It should be fairly simple to you. You don't have a lot of it, so calling it out should be a simple task. This is why I didn't bother with trying to go through the same process with you. It'll be much easier for you than it was for Taleon. Okay, Rico said, still feeling a bit confused. So what Rico do? Okay, Rico, when you eat, you're using your demonic abilities to absorb demonic energy. What I want you to do is call out the demonic energy inside of you. Then I need you to focus it on the aspects that you use when you're feeding. Currently, I don't think you're going to have to be very specific. So long as you will the energy to the general location of your head, I think it should find its way to the appropriate portions. But once you actually know what portions of your body create the effect, you can be more specific, which will create an enhanced effect, making it even stronger. But right now, general should do just fine. After all, we don't want to hurt Taleon. I don't exactly know what kind of effect this is going to have. So for now, general is just fine. Okay, so make demonic energy go to Rico head, she said, holding on to her head for a moment, looking up as if she was going to see her head. Rico thinks she get. Okay, Rico try, she said, looking over to Taleon, as she held her arms out to the side a bit, clenched them into fists, and began trying to focus. As she did, a very light blue aura began to pick up around Rico's body. Actually, much quicker than Taleon did with his training. It almost seemed easy for Rico. Rico groaned as she tried to force out as much demonic energy as she could. The energy outside of her was building, but as Taleon looked at it and tried to compare it to his own, he began to feel it. The massive difference between the concentration of the energy that was sustaining itself around him and the concentration of energy around Rico. The difference was massive. To put it to a comparison, if Taleon was a full glass of water, then Rico, at the point that she was at now, would probably be something like 1/10 of a cup. Maybe. It was exceptionally weak, at least in comparison to Talion's. He was actually surprised that he was able to feel the difference, but was beginning to feel bad for Rico, who seemed to be struggling to muster more than the small amount that she was. Okay. Rico thinks she got all she can. There are no more left, she said, as the blue glow had brightened somewhat, but was still very sparse. Okay, Rico, now just follow the directions I gave you, Sayla said. Try to focus the energy towards your head, possibly your stomach. For now, split it between the two. We're trying to amplify the effect of your demonic ability. Once you have the demonic ability handled, once you have all the energy in place, I want you to go ahead and use it. Try to eat. The demonic energy that you have focused there should naturally begin to absorb into the ability and enhance its effect. Oh, and Taleon, you might want to brace yourself a bit. The chances are Rico's about to eat much more than she has on her previous meals, if you can call them that. It may even make you dizzy for a moment. There's really no telling, but it will most likely be more energy than you're used to. Okay, Taleon said, raising his hand for a moment. I think I get it. So Taleon took a deep breath and tried to prepare himself, as Rico began to focus. As she did, the energy that surrounded her seemed to dissipate for a moment, as Rico closed her eyes, still clenching her fists, with a somewhat widened stance. Her eyebrows furrowed as she tried to concentrate as hard as she could. At that point, Taleon began to notice the tattoos on Rico's body starting to glow slightly. It wasn't very heavy or intense, but it could be seen. Then, Rico opened her mouth, just as she had done several times before, opening it wide and baring all of her numerous sharp, pointy little teeth. And as she did, the glow of her tattoos seemed to fade, but a different glow seemed to take its place. Now, it appeared as if Rico's teeth were beginning to glow. A somewhat dim blue color emanated from out of her mouth. Taleon swore he could almost see tiny little sparks darting between her teeth. And just as he began to notice that, something else began to happen. The silver energy that swirled around Taleon, burning off of his body like a fire, seemed to be drawn by Rico. In no time at all, it seemed to start withering away, being pulled in much larger amounts. At this point, Taleon didn't have a very good read of how much demonic energy he produced, but he could still tell that his teacher's words were accurate. The amount of energy that she was absorbing from him was far greater than anything she had taken before, and taking it much faster, as it swept out from Taleon, swirling rapidly into a stream that seemed to dissipate into Rico. And once again, after a few moments of that, Rico slammed her jaws shut, like a mousetrap, the teeth clanking against each other very hard. And with a big gulp, Rico seemed to be finished. Taleon still felt fine, at least for the moment, as Rico opened her mouth once more and let out an absolutely massive burp, even larger than the one that she let out the first time she ate from Taleon, filling the air around the location, which of course gave Rico the giggles. Rico liked that sound. She'd think that sound her new friend. Burp. Even words sound funny. Rico-like, she said, with a big smile on her face. But it was at that point that something unusual began to occur, taking Rico completely by surprise. As Rico giggled, laughing at the burp that she had let go, she suddenly got a look of panic on her face, as a feeling seemed to come over her. Are you okay, Rico? Taleon said, looking across at her about 10 foot away. Rico feel funny. Is something wrong? Rico yelled over towards Salus. Rico no feel normal. What exactly do you feel, Rico? Salus asked, beginning to walk a bit closer to her. And as he did, was astounded as Rico's feet began to come off the ground, which sent Rico into a complete and utter panic. No, stop! Rico shouted as she suddenly flipped over, beginning to flail wildly as if she was trying to swim, just down towards the ground. Surprisingly, it actually seemed to be working, at least a little bit. She seemed to still be trying to float away, but managed to dig her nails into the ground, and was holding on to it for all she was worth. Whatever this is, Rico no like. Rico won't stop now. Teacher man, make Rico stop! Rico shouted in a complete and utter panic, as Taleon couldn't really believe what he was seeing.